Okay, so there's a food mentioned in the Bible, and I mean mentioned more than once, not just like a passing reference, that is so powerful, so deeply nourishing, that a man once surrendered his entire inheritance for a single bowl of it. Not gold, not land, not cattle, a bowl of lentils. And honestly, when I first came across that story again, I kind of paused on it, because we read past things like that all the time. We think, oh, it's just a story. But then you start asking, wait, what was actually in that bowl? Why did it matter so much? Why lentils specifically? And here's the thing that got me. For thousands of years, modern science basically ignored lentils, like completely. They were just poor people food, ancient food, something your grandmother made. Until now. Because researchers have just confirmed something that the ancient world already knew in their bones, that lentils may be one of the most effective foods on Earth for stabilizing blood sugar, slower than oats, gentler than brown rice, and more filling than almost any bread you'll find sitting on a grocery store shelf today. But here's what nobody is really telling you. You can take this ancient biblical survival food and turn it into a simple, dense, genuinely nourishing bread in just 10 minutes of prep time. No yeast, no white flour, no sugar. Just the same humble ingredient that kept entire civilizations alive for thousands of years. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why lentils keep showing up in the pages of Scripture, what science has now found buried inside them, and how to make this bread yourself right in your own kitchen today. Stay with me, because what comes next, I think it might actually change the way you think about food. To really understand why this bread matters, we have to go back, way back. And I don't mean 100 years or even 500, I mean thousands. Picture the ancient Near East. Rolling hills, stone villages, dry riverbeds cutting through cracked earth, clay ovens built right into the ground or pressed against stone walls. And in almost every home, in almost every pot simmering slowly over a fire, lentils. Lentils were not a side dish back then. They weren't something you threw on the plate to fill space. They were survival. Dense with protein, packed with fiber, easy to store for months without spoiling, resistant to drought in a way that other crops just weren't, available to the poor and the wealthy alike. When famine came, and it came often, it came hard, lentils kept families alive. And the Bible records this, not once, multiple times. In the book of Genesis, chapter 25, there's one of the most dramatic food stories in all of Scripture. And honestly, it's one of those passages that kind of hits different when you slow down and actually think about what's happening. Esau, the firstborn son of Isaac, a man of the field, a hunter, a genuinely strong and capable man, comes staggering in from the wilderness, exhausted, hollow, like the kind of tired that goes all the way into your bones. And there's his brother Jacob, just standing over a pot of lentil stew. The smell must have been something else, rich, earthy, warm. You know that feeling when you walk into a house and something's been cooking for hours and it just hits you? That. And Esau, trembling with hunger, says something that has echoed through history. Give me some of that red stew. I am about to die. Jacob, and Jacob is not exactly the generous type in this story, looks at his brother and says, "Sell me your birthright first." And Esau does it. He trades away his entire inheritance, his legal right as the firstborn son, everything that was meant to be his, for a single bowl of lentil stew. Now, people read this story and immediately go to, wow, Esau was so foolish, and maybe, but I think that's actually the wrong question. The more interesting question is this: what kind of food is so immediately, urgently life-giving that a starving man gives up everything for it? That tells you more about lentils than any nutrition label ever could. In the ancient world, a bowl of lentil stew was not a snack. It wasn't a light lunch. It was dense nutrition, protein, fiber, energy, warmth, immediate life and strength in a single bowl. Esau didn't trade his birthright for something empty. He traded it for something ancient people understood instinctively in a way we've almost completely forgotten. Real food sustains real life. And lentils appear again and again throughout Scripture, not as background detail, but as something meaningful. the prophet Ezekiel was commanded to make bread from a mixture that included lentils and grains. When King David fled into the wilderness, the people who came to support him brought lentils right alongside bread, beans, and honey. They weren't packing lentils by accident. They were packing survival food, the most reliable, nourishing thing they had. So why were lentils so trusted across so many centuries, so many civilizations, so many completely different cultures? Because they had something rare, something that's actually kind of hard to find in all one place. They could be stored for years without going bad. They grew in dry, harsh climates where other crops simply gave up. A small amount could feed a large family for days. They were among the cheapest foods available, and yet one of the most filling things you could eat. Ancient families didn't have refrigerators. They didn't have a grocery run they could do on Saturday afternoon. They had what they could store, what they could grow, what would last through the winter, through the drought, through the famine. And lentils lasted. Generation after generation, mothers passed down the knowledge of lentils, not as a diet trick. They didn't have diet culture, thank God. And not as some health food trend, but as something they experienced with their own bodies year after year. When you eat lentils, you feel full for a long time. When you eat lentil bread, your energy doesn't just fall off a cliff an hour later. When lentils are in your pot, your family is going to be okay. And now, thousands of years later, modern science is finally catching up to what those ancient families already lived. Because what researchers found inside lentils, I'm honestly shocked even nutrition scientists who thought they already had lentils figured out. Let's open up a lentil and look inside, because what's packed into this tiny little seed it's genuinely extraordinary. Fiber. Lentils are one of the richest sources of dietary fiber of pretty much any food on the planet. And fiber does something critical for blood sugar. It slows everything down. When fiber is present during digestion, the sugar from your food enters the bloodstream much slower. Less of a spike, less of a crash, more of a steady, controlled release. The kind that keeps you functioning like a human being instead of riding a glucose roller coaster all day. Ancient people didn't have glucose monitors, obviously, but they knew that lentil bread kept them going for hours. That wasn't luck. That wasn't a coincidence. Protein. Lentils contain a remarkable amount of plant-based protein, and protein basically slows everything down too. It signals fullness to the brain, slows digestion, helps the body avoid that whole exhausting cycle of eating, spiking, crashing, and then immediately craving more again. When your bread is built on lentils instead of refined flour, the entire experience of eating it is just different. Resistant starch. Okay, this is where it gets fascinating. Stick with me for a second. Lentils contain something called resistant starch, and this is not like normal starch. Unlike regular starch, which the body breaks down pretty quickly into sugar, resistant starch actually resists digestion in the small intestine. It just travels past it, goes all the way down to the large intestine where it feeds beneficial gut bacteria. And here's the wild part. It barely registers on your blood sugar at all. Researchers have found that the resistant starch in lentils may produce one of the lowest glycemic responses of any starchy food they've ever tested, like genuinely one of the lowest. Magnesium. Lentils are a strong dietary source of magnesium. That matters. Polyphenols. These are antioxidant compounds found inside the skin of lentils. They help fight chronic inflammation. And if you haven't heard about inflammation lately, you will, because researchers now believe it's quietly involved in a huge number of modern diseases, the kind that build up slowly, invisibly, until one day they have a name. Folate and iron, both essential for energy production, for keeping the body's systems running cleanly and steadily, basically the maintenance crew that keeps the lights on. Now compare all of that to what's actually in a slice of modern white bread. Refined flour that was stripped, deliberately stripped, of its fiber, its bran, its germ, basically the nutritional skeleton of what grain used to be. Glucose that hits the bloodstream almost immediately after you swallow, a rapid spike, then a crash, then hunger again within an hour, and you're standing in front of the fridge wondering what just happened. Ancient lentil bread and modern white bread are not even the same category of food. One was built to sustain life. The other was built to sit on a shelf for 2 weeks and still looks fresh. Now, I want to be careful here because I think it's important to be honest about this. Lentils are not a cure. They're not medicine.
I'm not going to stand here and tell you that if you eat this bread, everything changes overnight. That's not what this is. But research consistently suggests that regularly including lentils in your diet may support healthier blood sugar levels by slowing down glucose absorption, may reduce post-meal glucose spikes compared to refined carbohydrates, may improve feelings of fullness in a way that naturally reduces overeating, may support gut health through all that resistant starch and fiber, and may provide important minerals associated with healthy insulin function. One finding from research has stuck with me. People who regularly consumed legumes, including lentils, showed better glucose control and lower risk of blood sugar-related complications than those who didn't include them. That's not nothing. The ancient world didn't count carbohydrates. They didn't track glycemic index scores or calculate macros, but they understood something instinctively, something we are only now measuring in laboratories with equipment they couldn't have imagined. Foods that digest slowly keep the body steady, and lentil bread digests slowly. Not like the bread stacked up on grocery store shelves, not like the fluffy, processed loaves engineered, and I do mean engineered, to be soft and sweet, and to leave you wanting more about 20 minutes later. Lentil bread is different. It's denser, more filling. A smaller amount goes a lot further, and what it does inside your body is closer to what food was always meant to do. So what actually happens when you take one of the Bible's oldest survival foods and turn it into bread again? Not factory bread, not bread loaded with additives and gums and numbers you can't pronounce and honestly probably shouldn't be eating, but simple lentil bread, made from whole ingredients, the way it was always made, just adapted for a modern kitchen. Earthy, dense, filling, ancient-style nourishment in a kitchen with a working oven and an immersion blender, which, let's be honest, is a pretty significant upgrade from a grinding stone. And here's what I love about this. You don't need a clay oven. You don't need to grind anything by hand.
You don't need the whole morning. All you need is 10 minutes of preparation, a few simple ingredients, and an oven. The rest, the bread does the work. It always did. Let me show you exactly how. Here is your biblical lentil bread, inspired by ancient ingredients, confirmed by modern nutritional understanding, and genuinely one of the most satisfying things you'll pull out of your oven. Ingredients. 1 cup, that's about 200 grams, of dried lentils, soaked in water for several hours or overnight if you can. This is your foundation. Everything starts here. Soaking softens them up so they blend properly. 2 eggs for binding and a little richness. Half a cup of water, a pinch of Himalayan salt, just enough to bring everything to life. 1 teaspoon of dried garlic, a little warmth, a little depth. 1 tablespoon of olive oil, the same oil that was pressed in ancient Israel for thousands of years. Use the real kind. 2 tablespoons of psyllium husk. This is your binder. It does the job that gluten would normally do in a flour-based bread. Don't skip this one. Half a cup, about 50 grams of mozzarella cheese. Half a cup, about 50 grams of cheddar cheese. A quarter cup, around 30 grams of sesame seeds, one of the oldest cultivated seeds in the world. They belong in this bread. 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 2 tablespoons of fresh chopped dill, just a little brightness to finish it. Step 1. Soak the lentils. The night before, or at least several hours ahead, place your dried lentils in a bowl and cover them with water. They'll expand, drinking up the water, softening, becoming something different from what they started as. When you're ready to bake, drain them and rinse them well. Step 2. Blend. Add the soaked lentils to a blender or use an immersion blender directly in the bowl. Add your 2 eggs and a half cup of water. Blend until smooth. Watch that transformation happen. Dry, humble seeds becoming a smooth, living batter. There's something almost meditative about it. Not far from what someone in ancient Israel might have experienced doing the same thing with a grinding stone, just significantly faster. Step 3. Season and bind. Into your blended lentil mixture, add the salt, the dried garlic, the olive oil, the psyllium husk, the baking powder, and the dill. Stir everything together until it's well combined. Then fold in the mozzarella and the cheddar. The cheese adds richness, adds protein, and gives the inside of this loaf this beautiful golden, slightly melty interior. Step 4. Pan and top. Grease your panning lightly with vegetable oil. Pour in your batter.
It's going to be thicker than a normal batter, denser, heavier, almost more like a paste. That is exactly right. Don't panic. That's the lentils doing their thing. Score the top with a knife, 1 or 2 deep cuts across the surface. This lets the steam escape as it bakes, and honestly, it gives the loaf this rustic, ancient-looking crack across the top that I find genuinely beautiful. The kind of look that says this bread was made by a person, not a machine. Sprinkle the sesame seeds generously across the surface. Press them in a little. Let the top of this loaf look the way ancient bread actually looked, covered in seeds, alive with texture. Step 5. Bake. Preheated oven, 180 degrees Celsius, that's 350 degrees Fahrenheit. In it goes. Bake for 45 to 50 minutes, until the top is golden brown and firm when you press it, until your kitchen smells like something warm and real, and honestly, there's no other word for it. Good. When you tap the bottom of the loaf and it sounds hollow, it's ready. That sound is your signal. Ancient bakers knew it. Now you do too. Step 6. The sauce. While the bread is cooling, and please let it cool, I know it's hard, make your avocado dipping sauce. 1 ripe avocado, 2 tablespoons of Greek yogurt, 3 tablespoons of fresh chopped basil, 2 cloves of garlic, salt and black pepper to taste, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Blend everything together with your immersion blender until it's smooth and creamy. That sauce, bright, garlicky, herb-forward with that richness from the avocado against a thick slice of dense lentil bread, that is a combination that ancient peoples understood long before the word superfood was ever invented, and probably before marketing existed at all, which, good for them. Rest and slice. Let the bread cool before you cut it. Patience. Ancient bakers had it. You can have it too. Just give it a few minutes. When you slice it open, you'll see a dense golden interior, seeds visible throughout, a crust that is firm and satisfying in a way that grocery store bread just doesn't manage. Take a slice. It is earthy, filling, deeply satisfying in a way that's hard to describe until you actually eat it, but you'll know immediately. 1 slice of this and you will understand on a very real and human level why Esau made the choice he made. You know, we live in this world that is constantly chasing the next miracle supplement, the next pill, the next powder, the next thing in a beautiful bottle with 40 ingredients you can't pronounce and a price tag that makes you wince. We spend enormous amounts of money searching for health, genuinely enormous. And all along, this whole time, one of the most powerful foods for supporting steady, healthy blood sugar was sitting right there in the pages of Scripture. A tiny, humble, ancient legume, the food that Esau valued more than his birthright, the food that sustained soldiers and prophets and ordinary families through centuries of hardship and exile and everything in between, the food that Ezekiel ground into his bread, the food that modern researchers are now confirming, again, as one of the most blood sugar-friendly ingredients available to any of us today. Ancient people didn't have laboratories, they didn't have peer-reviewed journals or nutrition panels, but they knew what kept them strong, what kept them going, what their bodies were actually asking for. Maybe it's time we remembered. If this video connected something for you, if the ancient and the modern suddenly feel a little closer together than they did 20 minutes ago, share it with someone who needs it. A friend who's managing their blood sugar, a family member looking for better ways to eat, someone who loves the Bible and loves their health and doesn't know that those two things can sit at exactly the same table. And if you want more of this, more ancient wisdom, more forgotten foods, more of these connections between Scripture and the way we actually live, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. This bread has been waiting 3,000 years to come back to your table. Now, it's yours.